What to do with Man United midfielders and who is the best cheap forward? Our experts have their say. Hello and welcome to this FPL Gameweek 3 Experts Team video with me, Holly Shand. In today's video, I'm going to be bringing you the answers to the key questions of the week according to this esteemed panel of experts before looking at their transfer plans and team selection for Game Week 3. The experts are a talented bunch with 494 seasons of experience, including last season's champion, and have also got 19 top 1k finishes between them. Help me get this one to 500 likes and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it. Starting off with the big questions of the week then, and I asked the experts, what should you do with Manchester United assets, Marcus Rashford and Bruno Fernandes, particularly if you own both? Now, 75% of the experts voted to hold both players ahead of Nottingham Forest at home. 17% suggested selling Rashford, with just 8% selling Bruno Fernandes. Now, I think the injury to Mason Mount even further improves Bruno Fernandes' output, who's massively underperformed over the opening couple of game weeks due to mainly his teammates poor converting. And interestingly, over on my latest article on betting odds, I've got Fernandes as the must-have midfielder for Game Week 3. Which Brighton midfielder to pick then? There's a stark contrast in the ownership between Mitoma and March, but for the experts, 67% have voted in favour of March over Mitoma. March has been the highest scoring player in the game so far this season, and probably as we head closer to European involvement for Brighton, he's perhaps the most nailed on of this pair. So if you don't own a Brighton midfielder at the moment and you're shopping for one this week, I'm certainly in the market for one for my team. March looks to be the one to go for. Another question I've seen this week is what to do with Mo Salah. He takes up a lot of the budget. He's got a goal and an assist in the opening games. He did fail to convert his penalty, scored the rebound, so we don't know whether he's on penalties going forward. Newcastle away up next. Now, 83% of the experts voted to sell Salah, with only 17% suggesting keep. He's taken up a big chunk of the budget, and when other midfielders performing as well as Salah for almost half the price, it probably doesn't make sense to have the Liverpool man in your squad going forward. Next question was to do with Manchester City assets, Foden and Alvarez. Both of them seeing plenty of transfers in ahead of Game Week 3, with some fantastic upcoming fixtures for Manchester City and great form too, and with injuries elsewhere, it looks like both could be nailed on for starts heading up to the international break. So do we buy Foden, Alvarez, both of them, or neither? Well, interestingly, 58% of the experts voted in favour of buying Foden this week compared to Alvarez at 25%. Interestingly, none of the experts voted in favour of buying both, and this is quite significant because we know what Pep rotation can be like, so having both of them in there feels too exposed on Pep Guardiola's team selections, with 17% voting in favour of going with neither of these assets and just sticking with Haaland as the sole member of the Man City contingent. Question 5 was who is the best cheap midfielder in the game? And there's so many options to choose from. We've got the Brighton midfielders, we've got Mbomo, we've got Maddison and Foden floating around in there as well. Eze's underperformed in the opening games, but he could come to the fore as well. I asked the experts, 92% voted for Mbomo as their favourite cheap midfielder in the game right now. 8% going Maddison if he's fit, but it's looking overwhelmingly likely that he'll set to miss Game Week 3. Mbomo, the most transferred in player for Game Week 3. If you were debating whether he's the one to go for or not, the experts have had their say. It's pretty overwhelming. Final question was who is the best cheap forward in the game? We've seen lots of transfers in for these players this week, including Wissa, Alvarez, Jackson, so many options to name. The experts were quite clear though in their thinking. 55% voted for Jackson, 27% went for Wissa, 18% went with Alvarez. So I think the pick of the fixtures is Jackson, with Chelsea having a great run of games. His underlying numbers have looked good as well, and he's certainly the one that's in favour for the experts going forward. Before looking at how the experts team got in Game Week 2, we'll have a look at the latest mini-league standings for the Community 11 Invitational, and it's a who's who of FPL content, particularly on YouTube. We've got FPL Phillips in top spot with 64 points in Game Week 1, putting him on 148 points overall. FPL Air is in third place along with FPL Nim and Jack FPL Redditor. I'm on a four-way tie in 7th place, also alongside FPL Harry on 136 points as well. Probably the biggest red arrow in the top 10 to get off from Game Week 1. So in Game Week 2 then, the decision was to roll the free transfer. 44 points for the experts team in Game Week 2. Estupinan and Mbomo were the key deliverers. It was blanks elsewhere. Painfully, you guys voted to play Onana over Areola, who managed a 10-pointer with that penalty save from Enzo Fernandez, but you couldn't really legislate for that. So it was a red arrow for the experts team this week on 129 points overall now, down to an overall rank of just outside the top million, having been at 200k in Game Week 1. I asked the experts for their transfer plans. 54% voted to use just one transfer, with 46% looking to use 2 transfers. In terms of the transfers out, João Pedro was voted at 54% to be transferred out this week. Gabriel at 46%, so you can see where the transfer traffic is going. Then Martinelli and Mubama were 15% voted for transfers out, and Rashford and Fernandez down at 8%. In terms of the targets to come in, it was Jackson at 54%, the overwhelming favourite. Lots of managers looking to make that swap this week. And with 2.5 million in the bank, there's a lot of flexibility in this transfer plans for the experts team. Looking at the other options to transfer in, no one's really dominating, but in terms of the defensive targets, we've got Vardiol on 15%, Udogie also on 15%, Saliba and Diaz both at 8%. Putting all of that together then, I gave you guys 3 options in terms of transfers for Game Week 3. The first was to go João Pedro out for Jackson with 1 free transfer. With 2 free transfers, the options were to go also with Gabriel out for Vardiol or Gabriel out for Udogie. Now, there was 23% of the votes went for option 1 just to make the swap from João Pedro to Jackson. 34% opted for using 2 free transfers to bring in Vardiol for Gabriel, with 43% voting to bring in Udogie for Gabriel as well. So that wins the vote. We're taking your advice. Remember, you can vote on what moves the community team makes every week by keeping an eye on the community page on the channel. With those transfers wrapped up then, this is the FPL Experts team Game Week 3 selection, including captaincy. Some interesting numbers when we get to that. Onana starts between the sticks against Forest at home, with Areola still on the bench for Brighton away. We've got fantastic fixtures for the back line of Estupinan, Udogie and Chilwell, with Colwell first sub on the bench. Hopefully we don't need him, but if we do, Luton at home is a fantastic fixture. In the midfield, Mbomo is still in there, along with the double up on the Man United midfielders Rashford and Fernandez, and the double up on the Arsenal midfield with Martinelli and Saka, who live to fight another week. Up front, we've got Nicholas Jackson at home to Luton and Erling Haaland away at Sheffield United. Now, Haaland has been opted for the captain pick from 100% of the experts. That's overwhelming decision there. If you've still got FPL dilemmas after this one, get in the comments. I aim to answer all of your questions before the deadline. And if you found this one useful, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as well. I'd love to hit 24k subs before the Game Week 3 deadline. I'll be back tomorrow with my team selection, so make sure you're hitting that notify button too. Thank you for watching.